Financial leadership is changing. CFOs no longer record history. They make history. This podcast will help you become a better leader, strategic thinker, and digital visionary. Welcome to Secrets of Rockstar CFOs, the ultimate podcast for chief financial officers. Follow along as Jack McCullough engages in exciting chats with accomplished CFOs, learning how they overcame obstacles and positioned their companies for the future. Here's your host, Jack McCullough.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. I'm your host, Jack McCullough. By day, I am the president and founder of the CFO Leadership Council. If you want to follow us online, our website is rockstarcfos.com. Let's rock. Well, I'm really excited and intrigued by our guest today. Yoana Land is the head of internal controls at L'Oreal North America. As you'll see, Yoana's financial leadership journey is anything but conventional. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And before we get in, I'd love to talk about your background since it is unique in my own experience. You've been working at L'Oreal for a little while. What are some of the big challenges and opportunities your company's facing right now?
Well, we are jumping right into it. So yes, I've been at L'Oreal for 9 years, and I've seen different facets of the business and the functions. And, some of the challenges you could say are always the same. We have to make profit and we have to make our top line. But specific to this year, I would say that, a lot of regulatory challenges, a lot of political challenges across the world, and then specific also to US, it's, inflation, elections for next year, how will that affect the economy? And indirectly, how would that affect L'Oreal? And then if I look much more, micro level inside the company, I would say other challenges would be, how do we keep up with this transformation across all the business? When you look at digitalization, the fast pace that we see in, data, cybersecurity, it's, I guess, business as usual for all the other companies, but this is what keeps us up at night.
Yeah, and I know we'll get into it later, but I know you're in a new role in the company in support of all the changes that you're going through. But before we get into that, I'd love to talk a little about your career, your life before your professional career launched. And you are the first guest we've had who's originally from Transylvania. But I'd love to get an understanding of, when you moved here, what inspired that, and what the transition was going from a communist-dominated country to the United States was. So share with that, if you would, please.
Of course. So I am probably one of the few guests that you'll have from Transylvania because there are not many of us. But coming from Romania, which went through 45 years of communism, to the US, it's exactly what you said. That's what inspired me. The transition from communism to capitalism, which you have freedom of speech, open markets, ability to trade, and so on. So. This was just something that I've seen in the movies, and these movies were actually not even available in Romania till Romania switched from a communist country to a democratic country. So this happened in 1990. Before that, we had no television. And then once the movies arrived, I think we had the whole population of Romanians realizing that we missed a lot of the things that were happening outside our borders because we believed we were the best and we had everything we needed. And then you see a lot of, influx of people leaving Romania and going abroad because they realize the opportunities that are there. So same happened to me, inspired by the movies. I discovered the American dream. And, I did everything possible to leave Romania at quite an early age by myself. Actually, I celebrated my 18th birthday here in the United States, and it was a really good celebration because it was something that I was striving to achieve for a few years at that time.
Yeah, so you moved here then at 17, so that's remarkable. And you came completely on your own, no parents, no brothers and sisters. There was no established family here that you could move in with to help with this transition, right? So
no, not at all. Yeah. I was by myself and my best friend. The two of us came together, and we landed in Dallas, Texas. And I don't know, it was a complete change from Romania, all the way to Texas.
Yeah, I can imagine you were probably one of the few Romanians in Dallas, Texas at that point in history. So, and you mentioned you were inspired by some American movies to come here. Were there any in particular that, stuck out as being Wow, what a, great place to be.
To be honest, I don't remember. The only thing that I remember was just, waiting for these movies to come on the TV at night just to, it was such a different society. I mean, you cannot compare a 45 year of communism where you have no products in the store. There's no competition. Everything is all owned by the government. Nobody lives or, comes into Romania. You didn't know what jeans are or bananas or like things that were not locally produced, and a lot of the local production was exported. So you have the last years of communism were just brutal, and that's the part that I remember as a child. So anything, I guess, that was on TV that was coming new, from the outside Romania was just a different world that we were opening our eyes to.
Oh, okay. I have to tell you, I was going to guess, and I had guessed in my own mind, there was a TV show called Dallas. And the fact that you happened to pick Dallas, I thought that was going to be your answer. So,
No, but that was big. That was something that came to mind actually, but
mhm.
that was not the only one. I think that was a little bit of ruthless competition, tough environment to be in. What I'm talking about is, the movies where everyone makes it, where, you just have to work hard and US will give you that opportunity. And that was what really inspired me for the American dream.
That's interesting. So you come to the United States, you're a college student in Texas, and you're studying information technology.
Yes.
And you worked in the IT field for several years, but how did those skills that you developed early in your career still support you as a financial leader all these years later?
That's a really good question because you could argue that, something that I learned in IT is not as much as, you can translate into finance skills. But I think it's the basics, is the idea that you have to be very good at what you're doing no matter what. And this is an interesting conversation that I was having with my team on Friday. We had an offsite where I truly believe that, when you do that the skill finder test, you find your strength finder. My apologies. So let me start from beginning. So based on a conversation I had with my team on Friday regarding strengths finder, you find what you're very good at, and that's what you should constantly hone on. Not necessarily the weaknesses, because if you have put a team together that has a lot of strengths, then they play to each other's strengths. It's the same thing, when what you form in your early age as a teenager and then as an adult, the idea of being very dedicated to your craft, trying to be the best at what you're doing, constant learning. These are things that you adopt early on, and they will stay with you no matter which career you go into.
Okay, interesting. And then, so did you have a moment where it perhaps wasn't one moment, but going from IT to finance, great skill set, but it's not an obvious career path for somebody. Did you have a moment that you said, hey, I want to go to finance? And I know educationally, you've positioned yourself for success in the finance field, but what sort of led you to it, if I may ask?
Yeah, no, that is actually probably the crux of the question. So I started in IT for many reasons. So one of them, I had a mathematical mind. In Romania, I competed in the Olympics for mathematics, and then I came to the US, and I really didn't know what I can do because my dream was to be a doctor, but I didn't have the money to support myself for 7 years of medical school. So I went into IT knowing that I have a mathematical mind. It was a big field that was developing at that time. And I knew that having nobody, the moment I graduate, I need to get a job and make money. So IT was the perfect answer for that. And my time in IT, I really enjoyed it. And, I realize in these careers where there are very few women, but I do want to open the doors, for more women to come, for more women to add to end up in leadership positions. So after spending 6 years in IT, I was working a lot with the business to develop reports, business intelligence reports. And I started learning about the business and what they look at, what KPIs, what matters. And I was really fascinated by it. So I thought, I would like to go into the business side. And the easiest way to do that is to get an MBA. And that's when I went to Duke. I got an MBA, and that was an easy transition from IT to the business side.
Okay, interesting. Did I hear right? You were in the Math Olympics in your home
Yes.
country. Wow. So that's pretty cool.
Math
Were
and
you,
Latin, imagine that, a dead language and a scientist language.
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's fascinating. Were you just like, because I've never been prodigious in any one particular topic. Like, were you just really good at math at a young age? As soon as you started studying it, you mastered it type of thing? Or was that just work, and made yourself good?
It's work, 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 work. Nobody, I think, is born as a mathematician, or I don't know, language, connoisseur. I think you just dedicate a lot of work. And in Romania, the better you are at specific subjects, especially mathematics and literature, the higher chance you have to go to best universities and best high schools. So my parents were ruthless about that. The saying was, "We don't keep idiots in our house." So pretty much you just have to be the best. And I was the only child, so it's not like they had options, but also I didn't have an option either. So I ended up in the Olympics. Many people in my high school did as well. So I was not such a specific case. But I'll tell you, I took the fourth, floor, or how do you call it? Sorry, I took the fourth spot because I read one number wrong. Instead of 56, I read it 65. So I solved the problem with 65. So this goes to attention to details, because it could cost you the first place in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's little things like that, right? You hear
Exactly.
stories like elite track stars, they jump a tenth of a second before the starting gun goes off and they get disqualified, and there's 4 years of hard work out the window. So that's too bad, though. You may have won the whole thing. So, well, I think not only are you the first guest I've had from Transylvania, but you're the first Olympian I've had that I know of. So that's pretty cool. But I wanted to get back to your career path, because now you've made the switch from IT
Mhm.
to finance. And I've noticed your path, you've worked for three very large, almost iconic type of companies during the course of your career, with American Airlines, Novartis, and now L'Oreal. And was that a conscious plan? Were you kind of drawn to these big global entities, or was it serendipity? Like, what led you to that? So
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. So when you are at Duke, a lot of big companies come on campus to talk to the students and to convince them to follow a career path there. So it was a little bit of a self-selection when you think about that. And also you have to think about yourself as a brand, right? So you have to make sure that you, especially beginning stage of your career, you develop yourself and your brand in a company that's already iconic, that already has the best processes, the best tools, they know how to do business. And I think then later on in your career, you can take all this and apply it to small companies. You can also be an entrepreneur and say, I'll do it all myself. I learned the way to do it. But I do think that there's a lot of rigor, and process and best practices that you get when you work at big companies.
yeah, just the people around those companies, they know so much what they're doing. You can't help but learn from being around people
Exactly.
that accomplished and that smart. So what did you learn at the prior companies? And I believe you also very early in your career worked at Pepsi. But what did you learn at those companies that set you up for success at a global personal care company like L'Oreal?
Yeah, so I think there are a few things. So let's start with the first one. First one would be your core skill set. As you said, learning from the best, but also having the best tools and processes available is the way you kind of set up your career. The second is learning from the best. You don't only learn your craft, but you also learn people development, personal development, mentoring, coaching. So that's another super important aspect of a leader. And for me, probably it's the most important aspect of a leader. And the third thing is, this quest, is desire to always be the best and always perform your best and, be exceptional, because you get, as you said, the best athletes in these companies, and these companies' DNA, they are always fighting to be number one in what they're doing. And that's another thing that you kind of start making it part of who you are and your personality when you are, in the circles of these extraordinary companies and people.
Okay, that's interesting. And I know a lot of young CFO types or financial executives, and they want to switch industries, but they're afraid to make the move. Just I've always worked in tech. It's a lot of jobs in tech. I can have a great career there, but they want to try something new. But they're afraid of what they might find if they do go for it. Do you have any advice for people in that situation about sort of overcoming the fear and then ensuring their own success once they do make that leap?
So I had the word fear in my mind, and you just put, your finger on it. There is no reward if you stay in your comfort zone. The reward or the opportunities that's on the other side, stepping out of the comfort zone and, overcoming the fear. I think that's when you get to, learn and grow and make yourself uncomfortable. And, if we don't grow, we die, as Tony Robbins say. But I think if we don't grow, we stagnate and other people would overtake us. And, then what you work for will be obsolete quite soon. So I do think that people need to put themselves outside the comfort zone. There is nothing that's impossible. Like, put me today in another industry, our finance skills translate. Being a good CFO, having the rigor, having the processes and the tools that, a company should have or should put in place given their resources, all that stays with you. People management, right? If you're in a CFO position or even executive, or even manager where you manage people, right? That also translate, or it's easy to take from one industry to another. Seamless, I would say. What you have to learn is the industry, but we constantly learn in life, even if we want it or not. Just waking up tomorrow, it's a new day, it's a new challenge. We adapt and we learn. So I don't think it should be such a big deal. They should just take the leap.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned like getting out of your comfort zone, because somebody once gave me the advice that you should become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's the only way that you'll continue to grow. Otherwise, your career will peak at 28 years old or something like that, and you'll find yourself doing sort of the same job at 58 that you might have been doing at 28. And, you're not doing yourself any favors in any way. So clearly you embody that. So just kind of go for it, huh? Is that fair to say?
Yes, totally. And that we are so scared of this uncomfort. But as I said, every day you wake up to a new day, and it's not going to be like yesterday. It's not going to be like even a few years ago. It's a new day, and you don't know what's coming. So we live in the uncomfort. We just hate to think about it and step into it willingly, because we wake up to another day is not willingly. It just happens. So I think it's more of just looking at it as an excitement thing, as you said, opportunity, something new. And I think then you're not that scared anymore.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the last few years have been, really the pace of change has been incredible, right? People who don't like discomfort, I'm sure really struggled the last few years. It seems like every month there's some new global challenge we're facing. It started with perhaps with COVID was the most dramatic of all of our careers, but it seems like there's always some new, if not historically unprecedented, at least unprecedented for people in the workforce today, whether it be inflation, supply chain disruptions. And yeah, if you don't deal well with discomfort, good luck dealing with those challenges, right?
Exactly. Maybe there's a different job that's good for you, but in all honesty, I think every job will require some level of adaptability to change.
Absolutely. So one thing I've observed is that most CFOs and financial leaders generally that I've spoken to have had a mentor or even multiple mentors throughout their career. And it may not have even been a formal thing like sign up for a mentorship type program. It's just people that, maybe they were taken under their wing and they learned from. Do you have any people in your career that had that kind of influence on you?
Absolutely. I don't think you can make it alone. First, it's a lonely journey, but second, it's limited to only your ability to drive change for you and for your company. I think it's a group effort. Success, it's definitely a group effort. So having a mentor, and sometimes official or unofficial, I think it's super important. And when I say official, meaning, from the beginning, you establish that, our relationship, it's going where you're a mentor and I'm a mentee, and that could be established through through your company, or through reaching out to someone and saying, I really admire your background. Informal is when you invite someone for coffee, or you reach out to someone. Sometimes it happens to me in LinkedIn, where people reach out and say, I really like your career, and if you ever have time, I'd like to set up 30 minutes to discuss. Nobody will ever turn you down for that. And this is kind of a little secret that people don't go for. People like to talk about themselves. Nobody will ever turn you down for a discussion, for a coffee chat, for anything that they want to learn more about you and your background. So those are the informal mentorship that I'm talking about. And I was lucky enough to start with formal because I didn't know the secret of the informal. And then, to discover that actually informal mentorship, it's also very powerful and sometimes even more powerful because you have so many things in common with that person when you reach out or when you admire something about them.
Indeed. And Joanna, I know you're big on, paying it back. So are you currently mentoring any up and coming professionals?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm very big on paying back, and I'm big on also volunteering to pay back. So if I see someone who's amazing, I would just say, let's just make this chat, going forward every quarter or every 8 weeks, or reach out to me if you have any questions in between. So I had the opportunity to actually mentor my mentor's children, which I thought was the most rewarding opportunity because it shows you that, they look at me as someone that they can trust to mentor their own kids. So that was the most rewarding. And then also I met people, through different interviews, CEOs that I talked to, and then they asked me if I could talk to their daughter or if I could, have their son come and, spend the day at the company to kind of see how we do business. So that's for me very rewarding.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's funny because you know, clearly I'm older than you, but I have a reverse mentorship. It's with a Gen Z professional, and she wants to get a better understanding of boomers, and I want to understand, the generation that's going to be running the world relatively soon. But she's actually the granddaughter of a guy I know. So I'm now mentoring my friend's grandchildren. That pegs me as old, but do you have any like reverse mentorship type of relationships where the younger person is kind of mentoring you as well?
That's interesting you say that because I always talk about, in the mentoring when we start talking, I always talk about don't feel bad reaching out or, putting more meetings on my calendar because in reality it's a two-way street. It's not only the fact that you get something out of me, but talking to you, hearing your perspective, hearing what you're going through, no matter what, no matter your age, it doesn't matter, or no matter how much interest or how much knowledge I have on, what you are doing or your career or your company, it is a reverse mentorship. You're automatically are teaching me about things I don't know, or I'm learning about things I don't know. So I always look at it as a two-way street. And I tell that people because I feel like the mentoring, sessions become more interesting, a little bit more relaxed, knowing that, it's actually, I'm benefiting from it too. And they don't feel like, oh, I'm just going to take her time.
Yeah, I'm at the point I do a decent amount of mentoring. I haven't been a CFO for a while, but there's certain areas that I can mentor. But I always learn so much from the relationship myself, even if it's not set up that way. But there's a saying: a wise man will learn more from a fool than a fool will from a wise man. And I'm not saying that I'm mentoring fools. Hopefully that's clear if any of them are listening. But I just anytime I have a conversation with somebody, I think there's something that person can teach me. So,
And I love the saying. I never heard it before, but I love it.
yeah, I'm not sure who said it. My mother taught it to me. So, which actually, that's an interesting transition because I can give another quote that my mother used to say about people that were well educated, more degrees than a thermometer. And you, your LinkedIn profile, you have a lot of highly impressive academic credentials. And I know right now you're actually pursuing a master's degree in psychology, if I have my facts correct. Is that true?
Correct. That is correct. Yes.
And I know you're doing that partly because you're just intellectually curious and a committed lifetime learner. But I think perhaps it's going to make you a better leader as well. Is that fair to say?
That's exactly why I'm doing it. I realize that, the more you get into the leadership position, it's the less it is about your skill set and the more it becomes about your ability to relate to people, to, understand who they are, what they want, how to motivate them, how to set up that vision that we keep talking about and rally people, against the vision and how to build teams. Again, I talked about the strengths finder, right? You want a team that has as many strengths as possible related to what you're doing, of course. So I do believe that, and that's exactly how I pitched my master's in psychology to L'Oreal HR. I said, I want to do this because I want to be a better leader. And their response was, I wish we had more people like you. So they completely understand the reason why. And I need to be honest, it's been one of the best investments of what I've been doing in the past 10 years, because it's really starting to click a lot of the concepts with what I was doing, but maybe I was not completely aware of what was going on underneath.
Yeah, and I suppose just on a bit of a personal level, given at one point you wanted to be a doctor, so I'm guessing that this is kind of very fulfilling for you as well to pursue this degree. So.
Yes, in a way. To be honest, it was a different type of doctor that I would have liked to be, but this is more about literally understanding people, understanding myself. It's so rewarding when you know who you are, how you
Mhm.
show up in the world, and what impact you have on others. And it's a self-discovery journey as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I work largely with CFOs, hence the name of this podcast, I suppose. But the modern CFO, like what separates the good ones from the great ones, it's things like inspiring people, having a high emotional IQ, establishing trust. Well, that's inspiration. It's not only inspire people to take action, but to follow you and to believe in you. So it seems like you sort of intuitively have a grasp on this, that these are the
Yes,
skills that matter, right? So
that's exactly right. I'm not sure if I have an intuitive grasp, but I think you can work on that intuition, right? The more aware you are, the more you learn, the better you're becoming at, really feeling the environment around you and the players in it.
yeah, because there are a lot of people who have the skills, the technical skills to be
Mhm.
successful as a CFO. I'm not saying the job's easy, but just the core skills. A lot of people have those skills, but it's the leadership, the strategy, the communication, the ability to relate to people. That's the difference between a manager and a leader, I suppose.
Exactly right. And I said that those skills, they're important, but at the end of the day, if you have a very strong team, you're not going to close the books yourself anymore. You're not going to do the budget and the forecasting, right? You have the people in your team that you selected to being the best to do that for you. So then what is your role if they do that very well? The technical part, right, is to develop them and to develop them as individual, as leaders, as a team, and to make sure that you contribute to their success. If they're successful, you are successful automatically.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, hire a great team and inspire them to achieve their potential, and that'll help you to achieve yours. So, and I mentioned, I mean, jokingly, you have several impressive educational credentials and are still pursuing. But what drives you to why you're so committed to continually challenging yourself and improving this way? Is there an underlying thing there, or is it just curiosity, or what's sort of your motivation?
Wow, we are going deep. I love
Ooh.
I love the question. And I'm like, wow, there's so many things that were going through my mind as you're talking. And at the end of the day, there are no many things, right? We all probably can say what drives us. It's probably one thing that, stayed with us from we were very young or something. And for me, it was, being born in a country where everything was locked down and everyone is equal, everyone is the same. There's no diversity of thought, there's no diversity of speech or ability to do anything. Everyone is expected to be the same, and the best is the same as the worst. And I think that's something that affected me, early on. And I thought, I want to step out of it. I want to be seen, I want to be recognized for who I am, and not for the group that is going to be always the same. So I believe that's what drives me, and I think I would be terribly bored or terribly unfulfilled if I would do a dissatisfaction to myself, and it won't be right for any human being, in my opinion, to limit yourself to less, right? You deserve more, you are more, you're born into this world to do more with it, and we should take advantage of every opportunity we have. And that's what will keep us mentally stimulated, right? And when you feel mentally stimulated, you feel good in your body, you feel good in the environment you're in, you bring good into the society, into everyone. So that is one of the best things that you could do through school. I mean, that's their job, to mentally stimulate people that enter the doors of the school.
Interesting. That's fascinating. You mentioned Transylvania. Do you ever have opportunity to get back there?
Yes, my family is back there, so I go quite often. I'm the only child. My parents are getting old, and they have all the regular, all people illnesses. So I'm realizing that's more need for me to be there more often. So I started going back a few years ago and reconnecting to my roots and the people and rediscovering, what it means to belong somewhere.
Yeah, because Romania is so different from when we were young, right? I mean, I think perhaps most Americans may have associated it with Count Dracula and Nadia Comaneci and a handful of other elite gymnasts, but it's actually a very vibrant economy right now. And I've never been to Transylvania. I'm told it's quite beautiful.
It's amazing. I call it the Alps of Romania, like the same the Alps of Switzerland. It's very beautiful, and it's an amazing place, as you said. And there are a lot of opportunities right now for the new generation and even my generation that's stuck around. And if you go to the big cities, or if you go where your job has developed the industry that's favorable for it, then you find a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have people ever said to you they didn't know that Transylvania was a real place?
Yes, all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah, they think it's like fictional from Count Dracula, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Yeah, how it's. I mean, I think there's a little bit of confusion on it because I've known people that also thought it was a country, but I even mentioned it over the weekend that I would be interviewing an executive from Transylvania, and they thought you were pulling my leg. That they were like somebody was convinced. No, she there's no such place. That's just in the book. I'm like, come on, that's not just in the book. It's a real place. I can assure you. So, but.
And when people discover it's a real place, then they look at my teeth. I always joke, "Don't worry, they are filed." But
For real, people look at your teeth because
that's
of.
the first thing they do when I mention Transylvania. First, they misunderstand it and say Pennsylvania, and I'm thinking,
Mm.
I really have an accent from Pennsylvania, seriously, right?
Yeah,
So then it's like, but no, I say Transylvania, and that's when they start clicking and connecting the dots, and they go, is it a real place? Because the whole Dracula concept was made up, right? So they have the right to believe it's not a real place when the Dracula concept was not real.
yeah, but it's odd to think that the place is real just because a work of fiction was created there, though, right? But
Right.
there was also do you know a movie Transylvania 65000?
No.
You never heard of that one, huh? Oh yeah,
No.
if you know Jeff Goldblum, he was the main star of it. I think it's before he was famous. But the premise, they were American reporters, and they went to Transylvania of all things because Frankenstein was there, and so they went to hunt down Frankenstein in Transylvania, and they ended up coming across like the werewolf and vampires and stuff like that. A remarkably bad film, but nobody seems to have mentioned that one to you. So,
No,
but
thank God. If
cool.
it's you say remarkable bad, then probably it's good.
Yeah, perhaps I'm the only person rude enough to have mentioned, or maybe I'm the only one who remembers the movie. But there was a song from like my parents' era, even like Glenn Miller, that was Pennsylvania 65000. So
Oh my God.
so the movie was Transylvania 65000. So when you mentioned people thinking from Pennsylvania, I thought of that. So cool. But anyway, getting back to a little bit of work, and I want to touch upon your educational and early career because it's relevant today. You don't meet a lot of finance and accounting executives with your mastery of technology. And, it's always been changing, and that's what makes it fun to have a professional life right now. But it's really changing now. How do you think all of these technological advances are going to change finance going forward?
Yes, actually, when you're talking, I thought I'll make a good point about this IT background. It was not done on purpose. It was just, as I said, something that, I ended up in not knowing exactly what to study once I got here. And then I believed early in my career, once I left IT, that it was a detriment to me because I was looking at other people pursuing the CFO career, and I was comparing my career to theirs, and I thought, wow, this is 6 years of my life in IT that you can throw away, and then my career, in finance starts at the point that I was on McKinsey and then American Airlines. So I really didn't think it was, a good thing for me. And I tried to get all these extra education to make up for something that I thought from a career perspective you can throw away. And then, the digital revolution came. And if you look even at Accenture was an IT consulting company. And today they are relevant in almost every field because of their IT background. When you think of transformation, digitalization, they can do it all. And that's when IT started becoming, the backbone of every company, and it is today. So my IT background became super relevant as a CFO. And that's, I want to make this point because a lot of people may, have hiccups like that, or they may feel like I did something in my career and is not serving me well where I want to go. In reality, all this brings a very diverse background. And I should have looked at it like that, right? Versatility, adaptability, you know, learning fast. All this brings that diversity in your background that makes you unique in the market. And we'll talk about it later, but when I look at what makes me unique in the market is the fact that I have this, IT background, is the fact that I was CFO for digital, is the fact that I went to China, again, stepping out of your comfort zone. So I wanted to make a point of that because I think it's very important for people listening to think of it like, how can I make myself unique versus how can I follow the same path that everyone does? And now we can go back to your question if you don't mind repeating it.
Oh, sure, absolutely, and that's a great answer. I have to say, you're a lot more humble than I am. Because you started out in IT and it ended up long term. It ended up being a brilliant decision. I would have positioned it that I knew all along how it was going to end up, but your humility is admirable to say the least. But my question was, given that you do have some rare expertise amongst financial leaders, how do you see the role of finance changing along with IT? I mean, I know some people are worried that generative AI will be doing all of our jobs pretty soon. I'm not sure that's going to happen in the near term, but what do you see on the horizon?
Yes, and let's talk about that separately because I have a really good point that I heard from Garner. But I do believe that CFOs are going to be more and more integral in driving the transformation in the company. And today, I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, they're becoming CEOs." It's not true. CFOs have been becoming CEOs for a very long time, and it depends on the industry. You go in an industry that's very capital intensive, like American Airlines. Historically, CFOs have become CEOs. If you go in companies like L'Oreal, where it's marketing intensive, CFOs to become CEOs is not that common. However, right now with the acceleration of digitalization, I think it's much more important for the CFO to really have some kind of technical background or technical understanding, because they're not necessarily, if they don't become CEOs, they are definitely 100% in all the companies the right hand of the CFO, the CEO. So CFO today is the right hand of the CEO. And if there's CEO out there that doesn't think like that, they should call me because I definitely think that I can contribute to their success by just opening their eyes to this concept. And the good CFO, in my opinion, will know the business as well as their CEO. That's my rule in life. If you don't know the business as well as your president, as well as the board, as well as the CEO, you are not necessarily going to be the best right hand and the best CFO for that company. So when it comes to digitalization, as I said, AI, I do think there's a lot coming in right now. There's a lot of questions, and I wanted to touch on that, AI point that you make that is taking over our jobs. The concept that I heard, which I very much, internalize because I truly believe in it, is that AI is not there to do our job. We should look at it as a partner, as a coworker, right? So if I have a coworker that could do some work for me, we can split tasks. Then I'm much more successful at what I do. But it also means that it frees up my time to be more strategic, perhaps, or to be able to have a bigger scope in my role. So as long as we look at AI as such, first, we are not going to be threatened by it. Second, we can adopt it easier. And third, we know where to really place it in our work. It's not here to take our jobs. It's here to enable us to be better at our job, to enable us to grow and to scale, which I think is really important, or to transition to more strategic jobs. So I think that's where the idea of AI should be placed versus, is here to take over our jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I like that analogy that AI is just another coworker, just one that limited, but really, really good at what it does, I suppose, right? So,
Yes,
yeah.
because you cannot make decisions as humans do, right? So once you have the data, the so what question cannot be answered by AI, right? Because in any decision, like even the market, look at the market. The reason it changes so much, yeah, there are some numbers there, but at the end of the day, the change is driven by the emotions. So the emotional piece is what machines cannot really learn. And if they can learn, they still learn it as a machine. They cannot adapt it or apply it properly to the situation. So they will never replace this human, ability to synthesize and to put everything in context and to add emotions and feelings and to make a decision.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is very human-like in the way it communicates. I actually was sarcastic at it once, and it responded touche, like it recognized that I was making a joke and was applauding me for it. But do you? I also find myself saying please and thank you to Chat GPT. Do you do that?
I generally type the question that I have, or it's the shortest possible, and then you refine it. But I love it. No, I need to pay attention. But it's
I'm
a
very.
good observation.
My wife thought that was weird when it was relatively new, and I showed her like a transcript of stuff I was working on. She's like, "Why are you saying please and thank you?" I don't know. It seemed like I was talking to a human being. I know it's not, but so
But it's a coworker, right?
yeah. Hey, exactly. It deserves the same respect we all do. So, but
Exactly.
earlier you mentioned the fact you've had some experience in China, and which is probably from American business perspective is both our biggest threat and our biggest opportunity, which puts it in a unique place. But what's some advice you can give to American financial executives and maybe executives generally for doing well, for partnering with and at the same time competing against Chinese businesses?
That's a lot to unpack here. So I do believe that there's nothing like, learning about what's going on in China. And if you have the opportunity to go there, you should try to go there because it's a total different world. Like what you see on the internet, it's not the same as what it is there. There's very little data that comes through, because the Chinese government tries to cipher anything that, leaks outside the gates of China, the Great Wall. And I think once you go there, you realize the opportunities because it's a very big society, very hungry to be the best, to consume, to catch up in every aspect. In every aspect, they want to catch up. They want to be the best of Asia. I know they want to be the best, the best nation in the world, and they have this dream to do that by the 100th year of the Communist Party anniversary. So they are gearing towards that. They achieved top 10 in top industries already. So they are on track. I do think that being there, on the ground, you realize that it's a huge opportunity. It comes with risks, like every opportunity. You need to live there, to be among them, to see the opportunity, but also to see the other side, which is the risk, and then to decide what's best for your business.
Interesting. So that's some great advice, and you know very well. You've had extensive experience there for sure. So I always like to end our podcasts on a bit of a fun note. So I was curious, Yoana, is there something about you? Is there like a fun fact, or maybe a something about you that would shock people? And I'll say you've already been maybe one of the most interesting conversations I've had. But anything about you that's sort of interesting, or maybe you have a go-to joke or a pet peeve or something like that you'd like to share with the group?
Yes, so you have used my Transylvania already. So I was a little bit in between when you were saying, so I cannot use that, right? That's something that will surprise people because they don't know about the place. But I have another one. So in high school in Romania, we had to choose between Japanese and Arabic as another foreign language on top of like German, English, and Latin, Latin was mandatory in English. So I chose Arabic, and so I still can read and write Arabic.
Oh,
And the fun fact is that CIA wanted to hire me. And I was so happy. It was probably one of the happiest days of my life. I was interviewing as someone coming out of IT. So The reality versus what I was dreaming was probably completely not in sync. The reality probably would have been a desk job. What I was dreaming was to be the next, partner of James Bond. But the job didn't happen because at that time I didn't have a green card. So it was also the very first time in my career where I dealt with rejection, in a professional setting, but also rejection that no matter what I would have done, was not in my power to change that trajectory. So here I am, a potential ex-CIA agent.
Oh, yeah. So I could definitely see you partnering with James Bond, or even, James Bond is dead. So maybe the next 007 could be a woman, and no reason it can't be you. So
That is true. In Hollywood, Bollywood, or in, Wall Street, whatever they want, I'm still here.
there you go. Well, unfortunately, this podcast isn't going to get those types of listeners for you, but that's interesting. No, so how many languages do you speak?
Well, I mean, I learned a lot of languages, but if you don't speak them for a while, you cannot say that you remember them or you can speak as well. So that's why when I say Arabic, I say read and write, because a lot of the language I have not practiced in 20 years, so I forgot. But I took German and English in school, and Latin, and because of Latin, also helped me understand a lot of the Latin languages, which I do pretty well about. I always say about 70%, which is French, Italian, and Spanish. And Portuguese, it's the farthest away from Latin, so I'll stay away from that.
We're ending this on a giving me an inferiority complex. Do you know how many languages I speak? One.
I was going to say, I don't think I want to take a guess, but that's the thing when you're isolated on a big continent that speaks English, and then if you're in the south, you can pick up on Spanish. But otherwise, here you don't have the opportunity to really interact or travel so easily to other countries where you could practice a little bit of a different language.
I probably never really interacted with anyone who didn't speak English until I was a young adult. But yeah, I speak one, and I don't even speak it all that well. So it's impressive that you've been able to get some mastery in as many as you have. So, well, anyway, this has been a lot of fun. So thanks so much for joining the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. And I want to give you the last word if there's any other things you'd like to share with the group.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to say the same thing that I said earlier. I think our duty is to pay forward. So if anyone reaches out to me on LinkedIn or any other way, I am happy to spend some time and, discuss my background or anything that could help you in your career. So please feel free to do that. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. To continue your exploration of this role that focuses on strategy, leadership, finance, and technology, listen to more episodes of the show at rockstarcfos.com. Join this revolution, episode by episode. Push yourself to achieve great things and unlock the best opportunities available to you. CFOs are creating a legacy, and it's time for you to leave your own unique imprint on the world today. That's all for now. See you on the next one.